it well. Played it very, very, very well indeed.
No more slices for you.
Oh, look at that for judgment.
You'll learn.
When we began Sliced in January, I think really it was a case of getting everything in order so that come September and the time of year where there is no place better to be than the DP World Tour, we'd built an audience and we could come on here and talk about the world's greatest golf tour. And here we are now, Sam, in September to do exactly that. We'll get to that. How are you?
I'm good. The last 8 months have absolutely flown by, haven't they? Crazy.
They have. They really have, yeah. It has gone fast. We're on episode 35 for those counting. But yes, you're going to be at Wentworth this week, aren't you, Sam? I mean, that's one thing we need to get right off the bat there.
Yeah. So I'm going to be there tomorrow as a member of the credentialed media, Ben, which I'm quite excited about. I'm not actually sure exactly what I'm going to be doing, but obviously taking advantage of the lovely media centre food, and hopefully catching a few of the interviews. There's actually some quite good press conferences lined up, so I'm looking forward to catching those. I might try and get a question or two in because I've never done that before, so it's quite exciting. I'll probably be ignored, but I'll put my hand up and try. And then I'm going back again on Saturday there's a group of friends that I've gone with several times now, and I'm there very much as a punter, and I'll be enjoying a few beers whilst taking in the action. So I'm excited about it.
Excellent. And who's after? Fat Boy Slim or something afterwards? What's
it's Razor Light, Ben. Razor Light.
Oh, that's a shame. That's that ruined. Never mind. It will be a lovely day, won't it? It will be a lovely day. And I say, from 8 p.m, when you've had a few beers and a few 3-ball winners, Golden Touch will go down a treat, won't it? So
I'm going to stick up for Razor Light here, Ben. I don't mind them. At least the early stuff I think is decent. They did release, because I worked on the sheet music in my day job for, I want to say, their third album. I could be wrong here. And it's definitely one of the worst albums I've ever heard. But there was some good stuff in the first couple, I will say.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And the guy who writes the songs, right? He's very talented. He did the music for Snowman and the Snow Dog, right? Which anyone who's a parent, anyone who's a parent and has watched that over Christmas will appreciate. So yeah, sorry,
that's a good call out, Ben. That's a very good soundtrack, and yeah, Andy Burrows is a very, very talented musician. So let's give him the credit he deserves. Right, enough talking about Razor Light and me, but let's talk about Rory McIlroy, because DP World Tour, we will start with, of course, the Irish Open at the K Club. Rory McIlroy won in emphatic style in a playoff against Joachim Lagergren. Did you watch much of this, Ben?
I didn't watch as much as you might think or expect. I did over the first 3 days, but then on Sunday I was on payback, taking the kids out and giving my wife some time to herself, but I made sure we were back in time to watch the closing stretch. And actually, I missed Rory playing 16, so I saw the first shot I saw, I think, was him teeing off on 17. So I've seen the bit everyone will be talking about for years to come, but missed the sort of how we got there. I saw on repeat Lagergren's brilliant eagle to his approach to the 16th, and saw all the important shots at the end, but I didn't see the jostling for position, which seemed like that was it all day, wasn't it? I mean, you presumably you watched more than me. And was there it kind of felt, looking at the leaderboard, that it was like, well, this is anyone's, and then very, very quickly it's Lagergren's to lose or have stolen from him.
Yeah, exactly that. I watched the whole of the back nine, and yeah, I mean, the first thing to say is Sadier, for whatever reason, just couldn't get into gear. Like, he just could not make a putt at all. It just wasn't his day. So he kind of fell off slowly. Hidalgo was kind of there or thereabouts. Sadier was still in the mix, come 11th, 12th hole or whatever. Hidalgo was right there. He was playing some great stuff. There was a couple of others. Ayora wasn't far off it. There was a time where he thought he could make a charge. And yeah, there was this moment where Rory McIlroy kind of stalled. He parred the par 5 early in the back nine. He had to make that a par on the par 3, which I'm sure is a clip that you would have seen, where a putt that seemed to defy all logic did a 360 and then somehow dropped back in the hole when it looked like it had missed. That was a kind of really pivotal moment, because during that time where he made those 2 pars, um, there were a lot of birdie chances for his kind of near rivals. Cabrera Bello's another one, and they were all missing. That was their window. I think a few of them to kind of really kind of get a bit of ground, and it didn't happen. And then Lagergren, obviously hit that incredible shot on the 16th, and at that point you're thinking this is his tournament, right? McIlroy. I can't imagine what he must have felt like Lagergren coming off the 18th, because he must have felt like, I've done enough here. Because the only thing that could have stopped him at that point was basically either McIlroy or Hidalgo eagling the 18th, and I think it had only happened maybe once or twice the entire day. So it's hard. It's very harsh for him, and especially if you look back to the KLM Open, another day where he didn't really do much wrong. I'm sure you'll remember this, Ben, because you were on him, weren't you? But he didn't do much wrong on the Sunday. He was 5 clear of third, and he's ultimately just been beaten by somebody who sort of had it on the day. So, he was. I think he can feel hard done by. But McIlroy, I mean, what can you say about him? He just has the ability to produce special moments when they are most required, and I think that's what happened on the 18th in regulation when he held that putt. And there's the loudest roar that I think I can remember hearing, over a TV screen. But you can hear it distorting. You don't often hear that distortion outside of the Ryder Cup. It was great,
spectacular, wasn't it? He's something else. What a year! To have. He's had some downs this year because golf always has those, but to have won at Pebble Beach, Sawgrass, Augusta, and then the K Club, and to have done it in that fashion. I mean, a couple of people disagree with this, but I felt that after that eagle went in, like, he could have lost the playoff, and I think we'd have seen him smile after the playoff and go away pleased and disappointed not to have won it. And I know he'd only won it once 9 years previous, but I don't think it would have been heartbreaking to not win. But it's the icing on the cake that he did, right? And a shame that it ended with Lagergren pulling his approach shot. How often do we see that? Like, feels like, I mean, probably isn't, but it feels like in a playoff like that, just as you think one player's made a mistake, actually, just it's amazing the sort of knock-on effect. So McIlroy pushing his drive to the right and into the rough at least meant he was second to play. Now, obviously, he'd often be second to play if they both hit the fairway, but I think the previous hole he was first, wasn't he? And Lagergren's, I don't know, he's just pulled it slightly. I mean, he does hit everything with a draw. It's quite a nice hole for Lagergren, but not if you start it at the back left flag and you've hit a draw, and that was that. So I did feel a bit sorry for him. I think to your point about he must have thought he'd done enough, I think yes, except that he'll have known it's Rory McIlroy. I think there's, it's a reachable par 5. He's coming in with an 8 iron. I think a sports psychologist would say you've got to just prepare yourself for the fact you're going to be in a playoff here. But no doubt when he holed his, 6 foot putt, maybe 5 feet on 18, and we got the little fist bump for the first time, didn't we? I think he probably thought, well, he knew he hadn't lost anyway, so he knew playoff at worst, and in the end it was the worst case scenario for him. But he's one of those players, when he's on, you sort of, it's a bit of a cliche, but you wonder, he's got a very long swing, and I wonder if he just gets out of sync slightly, because he does have tournaments where his ball striking numbers are so bad. He's a brilliant putter, but obviously they all look great when they're on, I suppose, don't they? But he's a good player, and 2 runner-up finishes, as you say, since the start of June. So it's been a good year, but it lacks that sparkle that McIlroy's had in abundance.
Yeah, I think a few of the commentators said a similar thing, actually, Ben. I don't know if it was David Howell or someone else who basically said, you can't really understand why he's not in contention so more often, because he hits the ball a long way and he putts well, which is, that's kind of the Marco Penge formula, isn't it? Which has worked so well. So yeah, it's slightly baffling, but I suppose that's the nature of golf in many ways for those who aren't a Rory McIlroy, is that you have these huge sort of peaks and troughs, and
and you've got to make the good weeks pay, haven't you? And he has done that, actually, and he's always done that. You look at his record; he is one of those players. We've been talking a lot about Harry Hall this year, where almost never finished in the top 5. But hasn't finished outside the top 30, just permanently finishing 20th or 12th or whatever. Lagergren's not like that. He has one of those profiles, got a lot of letters, a lot of miscuts, and a lot of them by a long way. But then when he's on a good week, when that long swing of his does click, he does stick around and make it pay. And that's why I know he was back down on the HotelPlanner Tour last year, where he won at the adjacent golf course at the K Club. but it's why, generally speaking, when he's on, he is on. But as for McIlroy, I mean, I can't imagine there will be many shots more remembered when he's done than that part. There'll be a few. I think like the second shot, actually, we talked about it at the time. The second shot to 15 at Augusta, I think, is the one actually that will be most replayed over the arguably more consequential one at 17. I mean, I suppose they're of equal consequence in the end, but I think this part is going to be, that's like, it's got to be definitely top 10, but I can't think of a putt he's holed that's felt, I think the second shot to the Scottish Open when he beat McIntyre, that's got to be up there. Obviously his majors, apart from this year, he won them by a long way generally, right? So it's not there's not like a single shot when you win by that far. What do you think? I mean, it's got to be close to the top of the list.
Well, I think what makes it feel that bit more special is the fact that it was such a partisan crowd, for obvious reasons. There was literally everyone wanted that part to go in, so that it kind of elevated the moment, right? So yeah, I mean that's what's going to make it so memorable. I think is that he was on home soil, he had the entire crowd behind him. But yeah, in terms of the the impressiveness of the achievement, there'll be other shots that should be above it, like the ones you've alluded to.
That partisan element's important, isn't it? Because we almost don't get it in the US because they're playing in America and there's so many Americans. And yeah, okay, when Scotty Scheffler wins the Byron Nelson, he's been going there since he was a kid and he's lived in Texas since he was 6 years old or whatever. Yeah, that maybe means a bit more. And, there are instances like that. A few players from like South Carolina who've won at Hilton Head, and I'm sure it's meant more to them. But the crowd won't, unless they're against someone obviously not from around here. The crowd is not particularly partisan. And actually, when you think about it, we've had considering the small pool of events where this is possible, over the last 3 years, we've had Nick Taylor in Canada, we've had Bob McIntyre in Scotland, and we've had this. That's pretty cool, isn't it? We've obviously we had Hidalgo versus Rahm. The Spanish Open generally is won by a Spaniard. But the Hidalgo Rahm, it wasn't, I'd imagine there was a few people cheering for the underdog. Rahm would have been more popular, but it wasn't, good result, bad result. This was just two, and Cabrera Bello versus Arnaus in Spain as well a few years ago. But this was very much, like you say, at least 99.9% and quite possibly the full 100 in that crowd wanting McIlroy to win. And those images of the kids around that green in particular, like, I saw one kid who was filming it. He basically got an elbow to the face when the putt went in, but it didn't stop him. It's just so magical, and so few people, and this is something Rory clearly appreciates and something that he referenced, so few people have that gift to be able to make like teenagers memories for their whole lives. And for some of those teenagers around that green, there's a chance it actually has a massive impact on someone's life. And it's a phenomenal privilege for McIlroy to hold. And it's great that he appreciates it. And look, let's take a moment as well to say, I've read McIlroy criticised for his lack of support of the Irish Open at times, which is mystifying. I don't know how many times he's played it now, probably about 15. His foundation sponsored it. The first time he won it, he gave every penny of the prize money away. I bet he did it again yesterday. Irish golf couldn't have a better ambassador, could it? So when he wins it, everybody wins, apart from Joachim Lagergren.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Let's talk about a couple of other events. HotelPlanner Tour, it was the Rosa Challenge. Now, this is notable, Ben, because you did a preview of this event, both on your normal column, but also on this Slice newsletter, and you picked out Hugo Townsend, who duly won. I think it was a slightly stressful Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah, slightly. I was at like a family event and I refreshed the score and he went from 6 ahead to 2 ahead. And about 3 minutes later, he was 1 ahead. And about half an hour later, he was level. And the other guy, his main challenge really came from Tobias Johnson. But then there was a moment where Anton Albers, who I had tipped the week before, looked like he might be the one. But the thing was, like the last 5 holes there in Poland are really hard. So he definitely would not have been favourite, like with 5-6 holes to go. And I have to say, we all need a bit of luck in a tight finish. Anyone who's on Lagergren at big prices last week, they just didn't get it. But Townsend deserves massive credit for steadying himself. If you let a 6-shot lead slip, looking for your first pro win of any kind, to go on what if you get over the line, you've done really well. But he holed like 260-foot putts. And the one on 17, like he said, thought it was going 6 feet past, and at the last minute it just dived left and went in the hole. So those are the margins we're talking about. It was a big relief to get him over the line, and he's a player with a bright future, definitely.
It's worth noting, I only found this out sort of after the event actually, that his dad, Peter Townsend, not the Who guitarist, used to played in a couple of Ryder Cups, I believe, Ben. So that's one that we can store in the memory bank for when we get those highest bidder questions that come in about, British players in the Ryder Cup in the 70s.
Yeah, totally. Peter Townsend. I think he played 2 or 3. So yeah, I don't know much about him, but amazing how that seems to pass down, isn't it? It turns out that in golf, if you spend your young years on the driving range, just hitting balls while your dad's working in the clubhouse or whatever he's doing, giving lessons and stuff, it's going to help you. And he does look a really good player. I know some people will be aware of this, but Eddie Pepperell played with him in the Scandinavian Mix 2 summers ago. I think he just turned pro or was just about to turn pro after a good amateur career. And Pepperell sort of tweeted, "Oh, played with Hugo Townsend today. He's really impressive and one to watch, and he hits it a long way. Based on last week, he's a heck of a putter. Saw a few clips of wedges hit close, and yeah, he'd been playing well, and he's got a really good chance to make it all the way to the DP World Tour. One other thing to note, his big challenge did come from Tobias Johnson, who's a good friend of his, and I thought it was interesting. It's always worth picking up on these small things. I'm sure he's just being nice to his friend, but in his interview afterwards, Townsend said, "When I saw Tobias charging, I was pretty worried because he is so good." And it's just interesting to hear them talk about each other like that. So yeah, he's another one who wouldn't surprise you if he was the next cab off the rank.
Well, I'm going to say, but might that inspire Tobias Johnson to win in the coming weeks? It'd be interesting to see. The other thing that I picked up was he said that he was going to drink 1 million beers to celebrate, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. It suggests maybe the back-to-back wins might be a bit of a struggle, but you never know. It's a good course. It's like a broadly similar skill set required this week in Portugal, and we'll have a preview for the newsletter. I'm not doing it for Sporting Life this week, so it'll just be available in the newsletter. So if you do want to see if I can manage to do the thing about the buses where 2 turn up very close to each other, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get a preview on Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, good plug. Ladies European Tour, it was the Aramco Houston Championship, and Nuria Itirios won. I didn't obviously catch really any of this, but Charley Hull had a good last round and finished runner-up alongside Sigander. Any comments on this at all, Ben?
Yeah, I watched a bit and then fell asleep, and that's not like me, but I've been you may detect that I'm slightly under the weather. This is before I fell down the stairs earlier. And I had it on the iPad in bed at like 20 past 8, and pathetically, for a man of still young years, I fell asleep. So I didn't quite catch the end, but when I left it looked like Itirios would just edge out Hull, and that's obviously what worked. In the end, she won pretty impressively. So yeah, good to see Charley playing well. She was supposed to be out for like 5 or 6 weeks and has come back sooner than anticipated and is straight back into the thick of things. So I know all the really important stuff in women's golf is now behind us, but she's a great entertainer of that side of the sport, and it's good to have her back on the box.
Yeah, I'll have to dig this out because I remember commenting on this a year ago. She's got a really, really good record at this time of year. I want to say like between September and November, she's like won all of her events have been won in those 3 months, I think, or something like that. So I'll have to have a look, but she's one to keep an eye out for in the coming weeks, I would suggest.
Mimi Rhodes plays well as well, Sam. Sorry, I saw Mimi Rhodes playing well. And, she's sort of been overshadowed by Lottie Woad. But, before, 6 months ago or whatever, all of a sudden she made a massive splash. And it's great. This is the standard of field is getting better where she's concerned. She played pretty well in the Women's British Open. So, big things ahead for her as well. Yeah,
definitely. Last event, just to mention, the Walker Cup. So I caught a little bit of this on Saturday. I didn't really see any yesterday, but Cypress Point, what an incredible property. I mean, if I was to say my bucket list, and I'm sure, if you went and counted up all the courses I've said are on my bucket list, you'd probably reach about 30. But Cypress Point is
DLF's on
definitely
there.
DLF, yeah. The Cypress Point is definitely in the top five. In the totally unrealistic bucket list in that category. But yeah, it looks amazing, and it's great to watch. So there's some great drone shots of it throughout the week, and it was quite tight for a long time. But the Sunday singles, the US just completely pulled away. I think they only lost one of them, so it went from quite a tight thing that could have gone either way to actually being a bit of a drubbing in the end. I think that's the fifth win in a row for the US, I want to say.
Yeah, GB and Ireland are struggling in it, aren't they? They were so competitive for so long. I think, the way it's gone in the end with the singles, everything that came before is sort of incidental. But you sort of felt that after the top match in those second foursomes on Sunday, which again I watched, that was flipped. GB and I were one up with two to play and lost it. And it felt like that was their chance to go into the singles level. Now, every likelihood that it would have made no difference in the end, but losing that top match really hurt them. You could tell. So they had a mountain to climb, and they've been outclassed. And look, there will be renewed calls for this to mimic the Ryder Cup and go Europe versus the USA. And I think traditionalists, the Walker Cup is held in such high esteem by real purists and traditionalists for good reason. They go to great golf courses. You can just walk and get right up close to these amateurs. No sponsors on there. Really pure form of the game. They don't play four balls, just foursomes. So it's a real purist thing. And I think there'd be a great deal of protectionism around it, making any changes. But I have to say, would this not be a better event if you could have a stronger opposition? I think the answer is yes. So I don't know enough to say that this is definitely the answer. They have to think about it, and it may well be that there's a really strong reason not to do it that I'm not aware of, which is why I won't go as far as saying they need to do it. But I take a bit of convincing, I think.
Yeah, I don't follow the amateur game closely enough to really be able to comment closely myself, but you would say 5 in a row. I don't know. Then maybe some people will say, well, look at the President's Cup. It's a drubbing every year, and it doesn't change. So I don't know. I know it's different, but
Yeah, the thing is with the President's Cup, you'd have to go wholesale change. I think there's not a lot you can do except bring in women. I think that's the one viable way to change that. But then all of a sudden, if the internationals win every year because of the strength in women's golf in Asia, you'd think, well, we need to do something else again. I'm not really one for. We definitely shouldn't get hung up on winning streaks and stuff like that. It's just, it wasn't even close in the end, and there's so much strength in Scandinavian golf in particular, but also Spanish golf. And who among us wouldn't enjoy it even more to see the next John Rahm in that event, right? We don't get a lot of chance, bar the Amateur Championship and the US Amateur, to see European superstars in the making before they are superstars. I remember seeing Hovland in the US Amateur, but to have seen him in a Walker Cup would have been great, wouldn't it? So I think there are definite reasons to do it. And just to go back slightly, I know we're a bit short of time, but have you been to that part of the world? I know you've not played the golf course, but have you been to that part of California?
I not really. I think I've been through it, but not really spent any time there. But have you?
Yeah. Well, obviously that's why I mentioned it. But just the drone shots, I could almost pinpoint where I'd stood really close to the golf course, and it is just a great part of the world. And although golf's difficult, it's expensive, and can't just go and play where we like, can we, all the time? The fact that you can potentially do it is unique to golf. Pretty much, you can't. I would say I assume it's hard to get a game of tennis at the All England Club, for instance. But when we went to California, I walked Pebble Beach, just walked around it, and you can just turn up and walk around it. And anyone who loves golf, I know it's like $700 to play it, but we genuinely drove into the car park and I walked down the 18th hole. So do that at the very least. Well,
I don't think you can put Cypress Point and Pebble in the same bracket, Ben. But I don't think Cypress Point is supposed to be extremely private, and
Oh yeah,
basically
you
impossible to get on.
definitely don't just go for a casual walk down Cypress Point. You get perfect out. But yeah, you can get pretty close to it. You can get pretty close to it.
Yeah, yeah.
You need a
Right, I'm
paddle
going to take
board.
us on.
You need a paddle board, then you can see all the golf courses.
I've got a paddleboard actually. Maybe I'll
Well,
take
here
it
we
out
go.
there.
This is a sliced outing next year. I
Right.
think I'm on a paddleboard at Cypress Point.
Right. In the news, Ben, there's not too much to talk about in the news, which is good because we've got some other stuff to talk about. But firstly, this is going back to the early part of last week. Sergio Garcia withdrew from the Irish Open. I don't know if you saw this. And he cited that this was after the disappointment of not getting selected for the European Ryder Cup team. So Golf Magic got the interview on this. And yeah, the quote is, "I felt like I was so looking forward to being a part of that team. And so I felt like mentally it was kind of tough." What are your thoughts on this, Ben? I mean, did he really think that he had a chance of getting the call from Luke that week?
It's really hard to know, isn't it? It's either a lie or he's living on a different planet. I don't see any. So he's either lying about he decided he didn't want to play the Irish Open. Someone said, "Look, I can get you tickets to watch Carlos Alcaraz. You don't need to be playing in Ireland. Come over for this." And he's decided to do that, which is within his right. But he might consider, given his previous antics at Wentworth a couple of years ago when he withdrew from that it might not look great to say that. So he's gone with this line. Or he genuinely thought he was going to be selected for the Ryder Cup despite having played really poorly for 6 months. Like, there was no... I think if you'd have had 20 Ryder Cup, a team of 20, you maybe start having to consider him for the 20th slot. And I know John Rahm would have picked him. He would have been his first choice, but he's not played very well. It's very simple. And we still don't know about the burned bridges and what he's done to fix those. So it's just a bit weird. I thought it was really odd. And I sort of thought, you're making yourself look a bit silly here. Because it felt like everyone said, "What?" Was that your reaction?
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit bizarre, really. You kind of... I mean, maybe... 3 months ago, I think we were talking about it. Maybe he's got half a chance of making a team, but in the kind of couple of weeks before the picks, I mean, I don't think anyone really genuinely thought he had a chance. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to know his sort of motivation behind those comments. But anyway,
at the same time, it's odd. Why else would he have entered the Irish Open except to sort of prepare for? So that maybe he all along has felt that he was in the running, and he's being honest. It's just, and maybe there's a bit lost. He's speaking a second language, so maybe we should be a bit generous with it. But it just, it seemed like a really strange reason to withdraw, that you didn't get picked for something you definitely were not going to get picked for.
Yeah. Right. The other thing to talk about, Alex Bjork announced his retirement on Instagram. I was slightly surprised to see this because, for starters, he's only 35 years old. I mean, that's not very old in the golf world. You don't have to go back that far to when he earned PGA Tour card. It was the end of the 2023 season. Beginning of 2024, he played on the PGA Tour. He was among the best players on the European Tour. Felt a little bit surprising, Ben.
Yeah, very, very surprising. Couple of things to say, really. He'd come back for Crons having been out since January, presumably injured, or had he decided in January, do you know what? I don't want to be a professional golfer anymore, but he just wanted to say goodbye at Cron. Whatever the reason, I'm sure he went into Cron knowing that this was his final event, and I think it speaks to his class that he didn't want to overshadow Mike Lorenzo Vera. Like, he's obviously not courted the attention, and sort of undermined the fact that someone who's been out on tour a lot longer and had an emotional connection to the event. Like, I think there might have been a factor in his sort of keeping it quiet. It's a bit odd that around July, August last year, he sort of put a statement on his Instagram saying, "Oh, there are reports in the Swedish media that I'm going to walk away from the game. This is a load of rubbish." It's like, well, it clearly wasn't a completely wide of the mark. They were a year early, but someone has caught wind of the idea that perhaps he's not enjoying it. There could be a mental health element, whatever the reason. It's extraordinary, really, to walk away from the sport when you're 35 and in 2013, as you say, you're one of the top 10 players on the DP World Tour. Not just race to Dubai points, like statistically he was. And at his
2023,
best,
Ben.
23, sorry, 23. At his best, a genuinely elite iron player. There was probably nobody on the DP World Tour more likely to hit a 270-yard drive, have 180 yards to the flag, and hit it within 10 feet. He's so good from that sort of range.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Ben, because I read through his full comments on Instagram. It's quite a lot, actually. He talked about a lot of stuff about people he wanted to thank, blah 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 blah. Anyway, there's one quote which I must admit I was slightly taken aback by. So he said the highlights include my victory at the Volvo China Open on the DP World Tour and being named the best iron player in the world.
By whom?
Well, that's my question. I mean, who named him this? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great iron player, but the best in the world. I mean, come on. I can think of 5 off the top of my head who are clearly better than him. And that's just a starting point. So, I mean, I'm not, I don't want to sort of piss on his retirement, but,
My cynicism's rubbing off on you. It's a shame. Yeah, that's very strange. But yeah, he's a great iron player and a great putter. And he really, if there's any regrets, he's had a good career. I think there'll be some regret he didn't win more than once. He had a lot of good chances to add to that. Played well in some big events. Obviously, lost out in the British Masters to Eddie Pepperell. I think he finished 3rd the year Ludwig won in Cron. Played well in Cron every year, it felt like. Played really well at Wentworth. Yeah, I've got cramp. That's not good. Yeah, so a good player who walks away on his terms, and we have to wish him well. And there's life after touring. It's not for everybody. Maybe the PGA Tour really was the final thing that confirmed to him. Do you know what? I don't like this life. And particularly like players from different parts of the world, like Scandinavia. It's a different lifestyle. You're away all year. It's just not for him. So.
Well, I did sort of wonder, actually, was him earning a PGA Tour card and ultimately not playing very well on the PGA Tour, was that kind of almost the instigator for this? I mean, had he not done that, let's say he finished, 20th in the rankings and hadn't earned his PGA Tour card, would he still be on tour for a few more years? And I can't help but wonder if he might have been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose as well, it probably raises the likelihood that his ongoing battle with injuries. I think he's had neck, shoulder and wrist injuries over the years. And maybe it's that more than anything that just became too much for him to cope with. Maybe he's playing in pain or whatever. Because you'd think if it was that he'd gone out to the PGA Tour and didn't enjoy it, which is something we do hear, particularly from the Europeans, and there's not a massive Swedish contingent out there anymore, and those who are, for the most part, have gone through the US college system. It's a bit odd that he didn't come back to Europe and give it a year and see if, like Afid Barnrat, who seems to be enjoying life again on the tour. So I imagine there's an injury thing that's also part of his many reasons, I suspect. But yeah, he'll be missed. It's a shame he didn't get that second win, and like we say, the best iron player ever. So yeah, he will be missed.
Right, let's have a little look quickly before we move on to other stuff at the race to Dubai and also the kind of bubble watch for keeping DP World Tour cards. So firstly, on the kind of the race to Dubai, obviously McIlroy is leading, but PGA Tour cards have been a few changes. So the top 10, the 10 players who are at this moment going to be earning their PGA Tour cards are Marco Penge, Wrighton, Haotong Lee, Parry, Cantor, Jordan Smith, Martin Kuvra, Adrian Sadier, Keita Nakajima, and Dan Brown. Now, Dan Brown and Nakajima and Sadier, I think the 3 of them have just moved into that bubble, and they've pushed out, among other people, Rasmus Nergaard Peterson. And it sort of goes to show, one missed cut, and if you're kind of on that sort of 9th, 10th, you can quite easily be overtaken. So Rasmus, I'm sure, has still got a very good chance of keeping his card. But it just goes to show things can change very quickly. So I wouldn't surprise me to see those. Certainly, the first 5 or 6 names may not change, but there may be a lot of changes in the names below that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think realistically, those first 4, so that's up to John Parry, I think Parry needs a few more points. He's just short of 2,000. He's probably going to need 2,100 maybe. to get his card. So he really should do it. I know we don't have that many events left, but he really should get it done from there. Laurie will have every chance to as well. Jordan Smith's so consistent that he could probably just keep churning out top 10s and 20s and fall over the line. I suppose the striking thing from the 10 at the moment, only 2 of them aren't winners. And that's Jordan Smith and Keita Nakajima. Nakajima has 2 runner-up finishes. Smith must have at least 1, maybe a couple, but obviously picks up points most weeks. I think it does speak to... It is a suboptimal way of deciding who gets to go and play on the PGA Tour in many ways. There is no perfect way, and I'm not one who thinks we should spreadsheet everything and just say these are better than these, so we take these. But Rasmus Nygaard Peterson is fundamentally one of the top 3 or 4 golfers on the DP World Tour right now who doesn't have a PGA Tour card, and he has played to that level. It's not just an opinion. Like he has played to that level. He just hasn't got the win. And like I said, 8 of the 10 at the moment have won. So is Sean Norris, who's in 11th. You get so much for winning. Dan Brown, a case in point, that you're going to end up most years, I guess, with like 8 or 9 of the 10 have won. Valimaki got his card basically because he won in Qatar, and he's justified it, and it shows you that some people are made for it, some people aren't. There's so small margins between them, but at the moment there are some better players on the outside looking in that just haven't had the week where it's all clicked. And I'm not saying there's a better way to do it. We have to make sure that winning counts. It's so rare that you should get a lot out of winning, shouldn't you? It should be a big reward for winning, and there is. But yeah, there's a lot still can happen. Certainly in those bottom 5 places, I'd say from Kuvra, Sadie, Nakajima, and Brown, maybe only one of them will get a card. I think there'll be quite a lot of change.
And there'll be a lot of changes on the other end of the spectrum on the bubble. So at the moment, Andreas Halvorsen, Callum Tarrant, Gregorio De Leo, Yuta Katsuragawa, Robin Williams, those 5 have just been pushed outside that 113 bubble. The ones on the good side of the bubble, you got Aaron Cockerill at 109th, Tapiol Pulkanen, Yannick Poole, Joaquin Neiman, that's an unusual one to see there, 112th, and then David Rivetto at 113. Again, there will be a lot of changes here, but we've talked quite a bit about Callum Tarrant. I mean, he's not going to be in the field this week at Wentworth. I assume he'll be in the field next week at the Open de France, but he hasn't got many many chances left, and it really depends who else shows up on that category 12. So yeah, there's a few big weeks coming up for people there who aren't in the field this week.
Yeah, 100%. And where we are, by the way, with the field this week, obviously subject to change at Wentworth, but there are currently 8 players who earned category, whatever it is, 10 membership, like a full member through the Race to Dubai last year. There are 8 such players who are not getting into this field. It includes Ross Fisher, who's 5th alternate. Includes Christian Bezaden, who I thought was going to win this week, and he can't get in. So you have got to be in it to win it. I'm afraid. Nathan Kimsey, who we spoke to, he's in 10As and a membership extension following his injuries. Rafa Cabrera-Bello, I don't know if they've not updated this, but it looks like he doesn't get in despite a top 10 last week, which is a bit unfortunate. But the one thing, just quickly, I wanted to give people the points and stuff. The DP World Tour actually do a really good job of publicising this. If you Google it, you'll find the link to the table with all the breakdowns for where you finish and whatnot, which is great. But it still can be a bit confusing or too complicated for a lot of people to bother. So just for reference, the difference between Rivetto and Halvorsen, either side of that cutoff, in points terms is 2.41 points. That's about the difference between finishing 29th and 30th at Wentworth. But in France the week after, where the points are considerably fewer, it's the difference between finishing 18th and 19th. So that's just some sort of context. Now, just on France as well, you get 835 points for winning that. You need about 420 to 450 points to keep your card based on recent years. So final thing for context, a top 3 finish at Wentworth, very difficult, but for absolutely everybody in this field will get you your card for next year. I would say actually something like a top 7 or 8 will, because obviously they've accrued points already, so no one's on 0, I imagine. So yeah, it's a massive week, but there are plenty of good opportunities over the next 6 weeks for those players on the bubble. It's going to be very, very tight.
Yeah, that leads us nicely onto the world of golf this week, and of course the big one, in my opinion, of course, is the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth. And a few notes here. I mean, Billy Horschel is the defending champion, and he is back from injury, so he's been out since the Heritage, so it's nearly 5 months now. So it's his first start back. I don't know what sort of expectations we should have of him, but the main notable thing is the fact that all of the European Ryder Cup team, with the exception of Sepp Straka, are in the field. So it's a really, really strong field. I mean, it's always a strong field, but it feels even stronger than normal this week.
It is a fabulous field. Seeing someone like Hideki Matsuyama come over and play it, and so many people choose it ahead of the Fortinet Championship. That speaks to the regard in which it's held. And I do think you go back 15 years or so, and we had some sort of slightly less well-known winners and stuff like that. And it just, for whatever reason, obviously it was at a different time of year in May, and it just lost something through nobody's fault, really. It was sort of around the same time as the Players, wasn't it? And it just didn't have what it used to have. And they've really... I think the DP World Tour leadership, they get a bit of stick from some people, even the players. Some of the players talk about Keith Pelly like he ruined the tour. Well, they've got Rolex Series. They've got the best players in the world, some of them, coming to play in their biggest events of the year. And I think they've found a really nice balance of, we cannot be the best tour in the world all year round, but we can nail September. We can have a great finish to the year in November. We can be a realistic option for people in January, like world-class players can come out to the Middle East in January, and then the rest of the year, we'll be second fiddle, but we'll lean into the stories. We'll do great content and try and engage people with the personalities on the tour. There are a lot of positives with the way the tour, the place the tour is now. I know financially it's a bit different. They've been propped up by the PGA Tour. They could have gone a different route, but based on all the things that have happened in golf over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, where the DP World Tour is today, I don't think it's been a shambles by any means. I think a lot of people deserve plenty of credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I mean, this is a great time of year to be a sort of DP World Tour fan, as you mentioned earlier on in the podcast. You get a huge event. Last week was a great one in the sense of, I saw a bit more interest from kind of US outlets. Obviously it helped that there was no PGA Tour event. But it did feel like, that the fact that McIlroy was back, and obviously the fact that he was in contention, there's more eyeballs on it. And I think it will be the same this week. I mean, obviously the PGA going head to head essentially with the PGA Tour, different times, which will help. But yeah, there'll be a lot of interest in it, no doubt. I mean, you've got players who, someone like Corey Connors is coming over and playing, making his debut here. There's a really, really strong field, and it's a great golf course. It's by the way, I think it's an excellent golf course to go and watch golf from, because it's quite an easy, comparatively easy walk. You can see quite a lot of holes from different vantage points. It's well set up for fans. It's for a long time been one of my favourite tournaments on the European Tour. Partly because I have actually been to it, but when you get a field like this on a good golf course, you can't really ask for much more.
No, just some good weather. So I hope you get that as well.
Well, there is that. I didn't get that last year, so yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot here, Sam, but there will be people listening who are going to Wentworth for the first time. Have you got a prime vantage point, a particular spot you enjoy?
That's a very good question, Ben. And
Thank you.
I'm not going to answer that because I could be honest with you. Last year rained so much that I didn't really know where I was. I just remember standing there with a few friends hiding under some trees, and I could see a couple of holes from there. And I had about 4 pints over a sort of 2-hour stretch whilst I tried to find somewhere to shelter from the downpour. I can't remember where exactly it is, but there's a path.
You won't if you have 4 pints in 2 hours. No wonder you can't remember.
Well, exactly. That's my excuse. But there's a par 3 on the back 9.
14.
Yeah, there you go. It's around about there. Probably to the left of that green is a good spot, I'd say.
Well, it's funny you said it, because I was about to say I've never been, but I think the sitting to the left of 14 and watching that would always feel like looks on TV like a good spot. Great set of par 3s at Wentworth. Fantastic golf course. I love the rhythm of it. I love that you finish with back-to-back par 5s. So much can happen. And I love as well that it is... it actually is not... On paper, you'd think this is a golf course that would really help if you're a big hitter, but I don't think it does, because the par 5s now, 4, 12 and 18, they're not even a driver for a lot of players. Like on 18, for instance, they have to, a lot of the longer hitters have to hit 3-wood, else they'll run out of space. On 4, they hit 3-wood to turn it around the corner. You might even see like a 2-iron from McIlroy if it's firm enough. So there's only 17 really, but even then, because of the camber, it's such a precise drive needed to capitalize on your length. And then a lot of the other holes, they're tough driving holes, but they're 3-woods, they're long irons, they are drivers, but you've got to be bang on. And I just think it's a fabulous test of golf. It's really grown on me, Wentworth as a golf course. And the changes made. I know they had some issues initially with Ernie Els' changes, but they've bedded in now, and it's just a really good test. It's not that hard, but for me, it's a good example of where we don't. Sometimes during majors we get hung up on scoring, don't we? But actually, who cares whether they shoot 10 under or 20 under this week? For me, it won't make a big difference. Wentworth will deliver in the way that it always does. So, yeah, great golf course, great time of year.
Yeah, absolutely right. PGA Tour, it is the Fortinet Championship. Is that right? It used to be called that, or is it changed? I can't remember. It used to be Procore.
Fortinet for about 4 years now, I'd say.
Okay. Why have I got Procore in my head?
Oh, yeah, it might be Procore.
I think it might have changed to Procore. I don't know. Either way, whatever it's called. It's the
We're
one
a
that's
DP World Tour podcast, after all.
It's the one in Napa. We all know it. But yeah, I suppose the
Procore.
notable thing here, a bit like on the DP World Tour, you've got the entire US Ryder Cup team in, with the exception of 2 players. So Bryson, which we know about, obviously isn't eligible to play. Xander Schauffele isn't playing, which is a slightly interesting one. I don't know whether it's injury based. I don't know. I mean, he's
had a baby
injury for a while, but he's got a baby due soon, has he?
I think he's had or is having the baby this week or something. In
is that
America,
right?
they seem to be able to give you a precise moment your baby's going to come into the world. So perhaps it's that, but I'm sure it's to do with a baby. So yeah,
it's to do with the baby. Okay. Well, he can be entirely forgiven then. I knew that he'd announced that there was one coming, but I didn't realize it was that imminent. So that will explain it. But I do wonder though if it, I suppose if it's a sort of planned delivery, then that won't be a doubt for the Ryder Cup. But
no, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
But with Scheffler, it went on for weeks, didn't it? Last year.
It was a saga, wasn't it?
Yeah.
One of the interesting things really is that for Ryder Cup wise, I'm not really talking about it today, but the first session on day 1 is foursomes. On the European side, like that is Sepp Straka only played foursomes at the last Ryder Cup, and Xander Schauffele's foursomes record is excellent. Well, it's not as good as it was, but it is good. And obviously with Patrick Cantlay, you'd expect those to be out in foursomes. So the only 2 players, apart from Bryson, who's less, be interested to see how they use Bryson. But anyway, there will be 2 players, I think, in that first session, most likely, that haven't played for quite a while. Sepp, I would say, is not certain because they'll have to see how he's playing in practice and stuff. I'm sure they have a backup, but I find it hard to imagine Schauffele not playing, and they'll be the ones going in without any golf behind them. So we'll see what effect, if any, that has.
Yeah, that's worth saying. I think the other thing I was going to say about this event, now obviously the dynamic of the event has changed massively between this year and last year. Last year it was a pretty weak field, I think it's fair to say, but it is worth knowing that the top 3 hadn't played since the Wyndham Championship, so it was over a month, and all 3 of them had missed the cut as well. So in terms of looking at kind of form players, maybe take with a pinch of salt, but obviously you've got some of the best players in the world showing up this year who weren't in the field last year. So I certainly wouldn't surprise me to see someone who is in the Ryder Cup squad winning this week.
Yeah, they've ruined it for everybody by turning up. It was a great betting event, this, and now it's going to be hard because it's like, oh, will Scheffler win? Okay, no, maybe not. Okay, Henley? Well, maybe, and so on and so forth. But we'll give it our best shot.
We will. The HotelPlanner Tour is the Open to Portugal at Royal Obidos. Ben, you'll be doing a preview of that in our newsletter, so I won't talk any more about that in the interest of time. The LPGA, it is the Kroger Queen City Championship in Ohio, and the Ladies European Tour is the VP Bank Swiss Ladies Open. Right, so very quickly, player tracker. Ayora, I must say, my faith in him paid dividends. He was 5th. It was a very good performance, and it suited his game very nicely. Good driver of the ball, and that he enjoyed that. Elvis Smylie was 37th, not too bad, but pretty much exactly as I thought it would pan out, I'll say. And they are both in the field this week. Any thoughts on their chances?
Yeah, it would be tougher, but I think Angel is playing so well that you'd have to give him a squeak pretty much anywhere he turns up at the moment. And I do think this is very probably a good golf course for him. So, yeah, lots to like. He's just playing so well, and that's going to be the conundrum for a lot of people this week. You know, can you see all these big names being beaten in both events? Because you're going to get 100 to 1, 150 to 1 about golfers you might have been backing at 40 to 1 in recent weeks to reflect that field strength. And it is a something we have to factor. But Joaquin Lagergren was a stroke away from downing McIlroy, wasn't he? So maybe we should be open-minded. Wentworth's got a sort of real mixed bag history recently. The big names have been winning it, but you don't have to go back that far for some real skinners. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'd say it's more likely at Wentworth, but I don't even know if I really believe that, having said it just a second ago. But it just feels like Scheffler might be hard to beat at the at the Procore / Fortinet, but we'll see.
He's got to be somewhat vulnerable out in California at a golf course he's not really bothered about.
Possibly.
I don't know, slightly more vulnerable than invulnerable.
Yeah. Right, fantasy update and picks. So a little bit of a change at the top of our league. So first is Michael Atkin. In second place is David McFarlane. And third, Lewis Blaine. That name's back. So, yeah. Ben, who are your 6 for this week?
Aberg, Hovland, Lowry, Fitzpatrick, Noren, Rye. Dollars Dishwater, Aberg captain. Yours?
You came in very quick on these. I like it.
I've got the clock. I'm looking at the clock. But
all right.
Yeah, come on. No one cares about
mine. I've got Bob McIntyre, captain. I think he's figured out Wentworth. Best performance last year. Hovland, I like. Tied 5th in his last 2 starts here. Tyrrell Hatton. Now, Tyrrell Hatton I did want to mention because I think a lot of people think he wasn't very good last week. Or at least he sort of stumbled on the weekend. But when he was runner-up here at Wentworth 2 years ago, he had missed the cut at the K Club. So I think we can take that with a big pinch of salt. So I like Hatton this week. John Rahm, obvious one, very good course form. Nakajima is my kind of flyer for the week. Slight Belfry link I've detected recently, and he went very well at the Belfry, so I like him. And then lastly, Harry Hall, because he was 18th on his debut, and he's playing better than he was a year ago. So yeah,
interesting to see if he can make a bit of a point. When we spoke to Ryan Fox, we talked about this after the President's Cup selection a couple of years ago. He won, Lucas Herbert won, and Mackenzie Hughes won, and they were the next 3 names on the list. So If you're looking for that to happen again, players like Aaron Rye, Alex Noren, although he's been given a vice captaincy gig, obviously, Harry Hall, Marco Penge, they'll all be highly motivated. Now with Penge, maybe last week's disappointing performance was a bit of an emotional letdown. You had referenced the fact that he's not stopped playing golf, so maybe he needed a quiet week out of the spotlight, and I wouldn't necessarily fancy him this week. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those who almost got selected, and the same could happen on the PGA Tour as well.
It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder.
Now, I will say, Ben, I have totted up our scores, and you may be interested to know you're on 66 points, and I'm on 36 points. Okay. So I've basically established that I need to have a very good run between now and the end of the season. So we've sort of said that we'll end it at the end of the DP World Tour season. And yeah, I think there's going to be something like 10 weeks left, and I need to, I've got to win at least. I've got to get 5 points in at least 6 of those weeks, and hope that you don't get any more points. So I've got it's got a chance at least. But yes, our topic this week is we've got a few in. Let's go. This one, Inkblock Sports. In honour of 5-time winner Rasmus Højgaard locking up a spot in the Ryder Cup team, there are 12 Europeans who have reached 5 European Tour wins since 2010 and never made a Ryder Cup team. So 12 Europeans who've reached 5 European Tour wins. That is really hard.
It's your bid, isn't it?
No, it's actually your bid. I get a chance to outbid this.
And there are how many? There are 12 of these?
There are 12 of these players, yeah.
5 wins since 2010 and not made the Ryder Cup team. All right, I'll say 5. 6. I'll go 6. I'm going 6. I don't know who they are, though.
I desperately need the points, but I just can't. I know I'm going to come up short, so I'm going to let you go.
I can't name any at the moment, by the way, but I don't know if all these wins have to have come since 2010 or if they accrued their 5th win in 2011. Do they count? I don't know.
You know, it does. Well, it says who've reached 5 European Tour wins since 2010. Yeah,
okay.
So I assume that means that all the wins are post 2010.
Right. So Pablo Larrazabal is 100% correct. He's on 8 or 9 DP World Tour wins.
Okay.
Joust Lauten, I think, has won 5. And he definitely hasn't played in the Ryder Cup.
Okay, so I'm going to check that. He has won. Yeah, he's won 6 times, and all of them are since 2010. So yes, good.
Okay. Now we struggle because they've got to be European. They've got to have won loads of times. Now Michael Hoey, I think, won 5 times, but maybe the first of them came. Can you check Michael Hoey for me, please?
Yeah, I'm checking.
He's my mulligan if not.
He has 5 European Tour wins. One of them's in 2009. That's really harsh, Ben, because that's an excellent shout.
Okay, that's aggravating. Okay, 5 DP World Tour wins. Well, I think, is Matt Wallace on 5 now, or is he on 4?
Oh,
I think he's on 5.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. Yes, he's got 5 European Tour wins. Yeah, very good.
I've got 3, right?
Yeah, you got 3.
Okay. 5 DP World Tour wins. How many's Rosner on? Not that many. 3, maybe. Could be on 4. I think he's on 3. 5 DP World Tour wins over the last 15 years and not made the Ryder Cup. I'm struggling badly here, Sam. Did I say 6 players? There's just not a chance I'm getting to 6. I'm on 3.
Say 6.
I'm on 3 now.
You initially said 5, and that honestly would have been enough to scare me off, but you decided to up yourself to 6 for some reason.
Foolish. I'm going round sort of the countries.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cabrera Bello has played in the Ryder Cup. Can't be him. Who's reasonably prolific? No, I'm going to Italy. I'll go Matteo Manassero. Because I think he might have got to 5 or 6 wins. So I'm going to name him.
Manassero.
If you give me Hoey, then I've done it.
He has got 5 European Tour wins, and the first of which was in 2010. So yes,
the Castello Masters, right? Is that right?
Yes, correct.
First?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think I've disgraced myself here. I'm going to keep just touring around some countries for a moment. Sweden, Hansen and Noren have both played it. Can't go to the Netherlands. We've done Joust. Peter's played it. Any Frenchmen won 5 times in the last decade? Don't think so. 15 years. Gregory Bordy definitely didn't win 5 times, did he? Englishman Simon Dyson.
Wow.
I think Simon Dyson won too many tournaments before 2010. So
yeah, I was going to say, I'm
way off with that. In fact, I think he's only won like once since 2009.
Yeah, he's won twice since 2010. But yeah, 6 European Tour wins. But yeah, a couple of them were in 2006. So
okay, so I've failed. I've failed, but I'm not too displeased with how that went.
You haven't disgraced yourself, and I'd love to sort of, because I think essentially can try and dive in and get a couple of points, can't I? Here. But I can't think of one. I genuinely can't think of one that you haven't mentioned. I may have got 2 of the ones you mentioned, and that might have been a stretch. This is a hard topic.
I'm wondering now about Gonzo, but I think after he won the British Masters in 2008, he's probably only won 2 or 3 more. I think he won the Dutch Open.
I'm wondering if there's any Danes.
China. Danes.
I mean,
obviously
Ollison
won 5. I don't think Kjelsson won 5. Because when he won the Irish Open in 2015, it had been a long time since he'd won. We will
have to find out. I haven't got any more to add.
Question.
So it's no points for either of us, but it was an honourable attempt. And I'll try and find out what the answers were. I don't have them to hand, unfortunately, the results, if you've been having a go at home. But yes, anyway, that ends everything for this show. I will be at Wentworth tomorrow and Saturday. If you happen to be there on either day, then shoot us a DM on Sliced and come and say hi. It'd be good to meet people. So I think that's all there is to say, Ben, and we will be back next week.